Hey YouTube, this is Crockett36, um, and let's see here. So there you go. This is the first three chapters of a book that is somewhat around Access Analyze, based around Access Analyze. But yeah, so I thought I'd read it to you. Posted on Facebook and Access Analyze page. But here it is: The Casting of the Lot by Randy Van Dyke. 7:38 p.m. The living room of the little house in the woods was dimly lit, except for the light that hung over the large table. A boy named Tom stood by the table, staring at a game board covered by hundreds of little soldiers, tanks, planes, and ships of various colors. Tom's hair was brown and short. His eyes were hazel. He was of average in height, with a large nose and small eyes. Tom said, "It's getting late. We need to start soon if we don't want another night like last Friday." Yeah, the clock struck 12 and everyone turned into a risk player. How much skill does it take to say, "Maybe we'll get lucky," Zach said. Zach was a tall, black-haired boy, pale and lanky. His bangs covered his eyes, and he spoke softly even when he tried for anger. "Unacceptable," said Tom decisively. "You know we're not normal, right?" Zach mumbled. "Your task will not be an easy one," Tom recited, ignoring the comment. "Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will Hey!" Tom yelled as a pillow skimmed his head. "I was quoting Eisenhower, Dorcas," Tom quipped. He plopped down on an overstuffed chair. Tom adjusted his glasses and then reached for an instruction manual from the coffee table. Zach stood up and walked to the bay window. He sighed. "It's my birthday. I'd like to play Dungeons and Dragons." "Can't," Tom said in exasperation. "Today's not just your birthday, it's D-Day. The club always plays Axis and Allies on June 6th. We have to. It's the greatest battle of all time." We only started playing 2 years ago," Zach said tersely. Eisenhower ordered the Allied troops to liberate France from the Nazis on the 5th, but the landings were delayed by weather until the 6th. It's the beginning of the end of the World War II. That's huge, Tom said matter-of-factly. "Wouldn't you want to play Dungeons and Dragons today if you just got it last night? Come on." Zach spoke with desperation in his voice. "What can I say? If your favorite sport were, say, skiing, would you be sorry if you couldn't go on the slopes on June 6th because you lived in New England? The stars have aligned against you, man," Tom said sympathetically. Zach's words dripped with bitterness. "Don't try to pass the buck on to destiny when we're free to choose. Hey, there they are." A lime green Mustang pulled up on the long wooded driveway. Zach and Tom walked out and stood on the porch of the cabin. The wind was rustling the leaves about. "If it isn't Robin Hood and Friar Tuck, you're late," said Tom. "The baseball game ran long." "Some of us have lives off the board, Tom," said the driver of the car. A large white sneaker emerged from the driver's side, followed by the body of a linebacker. Sandy hair framed Alan's friendly grin. "And then again, some of us don't." There was laughter from the car as the passenger door opened and a tall red-haired boy got out. "Douglas, good to see you," said Tom. "Welcome," said Zach with great bravado. "Thanks. My dad is really excited that I found a group of guys that play Axis and Allies. It's his favorite. He bought Europe 1940 last summer, but we haven't got around to learning all the rules. It's been a crazy time. He started looking for a church last June, and we just moved in Saturday. He wanted me to invite you all over to our house for a big game, maybe in a month or two." "Wow, that's cool." "Sure," Tom sputtered. The screen door of the cabin creaked and slammed shut as they made their way inside. Tom strode into the living room and took his place behind the table. "Let's get down to business," Tom said, becoming stern. "Yes, sir," Alan saluted. Tom acknowledged him with a nod. "The Constitution?" "Absolutely," Zach said with a great fanfare. "Not," Alan chided. "We the people," Doug suggested. "Not that Constitution, Doug," Tom corrected. "You've heard us talking about the club at the Y. We're serious gamers. We depend on our wits, knowledge, skill, and strategy to beat our opponents across the table. We win because we're good, not because we're lucky. We don't play games that depend heavily on luck, on the dice like Monopoly or Risk." Zach and Alan suddenly leapt to their feet, and the three members chanted, "Lady Luck is a capricious harlot." "Hag. Lady Luck?" Doug inquired. Alan cleared his throat. "Dice, chance, we call her Lady Luck when we hate her." "Why, what's wrong with rolling dice? It's kind of fun," Doug replied. "We know," Zach said, "and most of the time it'll come out right in the long run. You know, I get lucky, you get lucky, like a seesaw back and forth." "Okay," Doug followed. Zach continued with a foreboding tone, but sometimes a lucky newbie will beat a veteran player just because sixes are popping for him all night long. Believe me, we've seen it happen. Jeff Green, Alan volunteered bitterly. Zach nodded seriously. The classic. That's what pushed us over the edge with risk. Alan was steamrolling player after player, doing it right, too. He was on fire. He'd take over a player, turning their cards, keep going. Good trace. Didn't strand any guys in Madagascar or anything. Last off, he finds Jeff in Indonesia with a mess of troops. Alan outnumbers 123 to 47 guys. 48, Alan corrected. Right, said Zach. Well, Jeff starts banging out 6 after 6 until Alan and he are even at 11 apiece. Alan retreated. I was kind of freaked out. It was bizarre, Alan said in a small voice. I can imagine, Doug assured him. Of course he had cards, Alan dolefully continued. He turned them in for a set, plowed back at me. Made all sorts of dumb mistakes and still took it down an hour later. Sloppy. I gave the risk game to my kid brother the next morning, Tom jumped in. Wow, rough, Doug agreed. And that's when the three of us came up with the document, Zach said, and looked at his friend, Tom. Tom? Tom pulled a tattered green notebook from his backpack and handed it to Doug. It's not Madison or Jefferson, but it'll make you... It says what we think. Zach grinned. Have you mentioned we're not normal? Yeah, guess not. Doug, you can read it for yourself when you're not busy. Tom ignored the brevity. Alan smiled. Unfortunately, that won't be often. Okay, let's start. Zach began. So you know that it's 1942. The good guys are England, Russia, China, America, and ANZAC. ANZAC stands for Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. The bad guys are Germany, Italy, and Japan. Zach showed Doug 4 discs with symbols on them. He flipped them over to their backside and laid them on the table and began to move them about, shuffling them. He spread them out before the eager young men. China's paired up with American instruction book. We decided ANZAC will be under the control of the Russian player, and Italy will be controlled by the Japan player. We have concern for national sovereignty. Doug's face was blank. I'll explain later, Tom said. Looked Doug in the eyes. Pick a disc and see what you can do with your 15 minutes on the stage. They each took a disc and looked at it. We'll keep history as is. Doug and I are the good guys, Zach said confidently. Tom, you should have chosen D&D. Ooh, Alan and Doug laughed. Tom acknowledged Zach with the tip of an invisible hat and looked at the board. It was 6 feet long and 3.5 feet wide. The facsimile of the world map circa 1940 was dotted with a rainbow of colorful, circa 1942, that should be, colorful rainbow miniatures. That's a beautiful sight, Tom said. Alan chortled. Planning to go stag to the senior prom next year, huh, Tom? Have we mentioned we're not normal, Zach said comically. Do you want to be normal? Tom inquired knowingly. There was a long pause while Zach pretended to seriously consider the question. Not a chance. It's awesome. They all broke into a wave of laughter. Alan got seriously so quickly. Hey, I know you guys voted it down, but can we please do low luck? Alan fell on his knees dramatically and whimpered. Tom and Alan looked at each other and rolled their eyes. Tom sat on the couch and looked at Alan. Was about to speak when he noticed Doug. Oh, sorry, a little debate we're having. Low luck is a drastic way to eliminate chance by adding up combat values and dividing. And you never have to roll more than 1 dice for remainders. Sometimes you don't have to roll any, Tom sighed. Alan chided. Gee, Doug, wouldn't that be perfect for our club? Zach replied meekly. Tom and I prefer to look at the rules of the game as a litmus test, whether or not to play. I mean, gaming isn't just mathematical equation dressed up in camo, is it? Tom nodded uncomfortably. We'll do it next time, not during the anniversary game. Alan clicked his tongue and reluctantly shook his head. Next time. So, is that a tacit admission that I'm better at math than you guys are? That I'm way better at math than you guys are? Zach, don't you and Tom have something better to do, like plan on how to conquer the world? Tom said. 12:11 a.m. Time's almost up, Doug. Don't be precocious on me, Alan taunted. You know the rules, Alan. Doug gets 5 minutes, right, Tom? Zach said firmly. That's right. Take 5 minutes if you need them. Alan, the peanut gallery is closed, Tom said. He slapped Alan on the top of the head. Alan ducked but did not reply. The new guy's doing well, Alan said sarcastically. Tom whispered, you have to expect it. Zach accused me of playing puppeteer when I taught you way back when. You just wish you were in his place. You bet. I love newbies. Fresh meat. Alan said a little too loud. Two heads turned and gave him a dirty look, then went back to their scheming. Tom laughed. The fact is, we're losing. Obviously, Zach had this all worked out. He knew what he was going to do before we started tonight. He's pretty sure we're going to respond to. So it's this little play. Hopefully he'll make a mistake and we'll bring down the house. Alan slapped Tom in the bank. To bring down or not to bring down? That is the question. Tom smirked. Don't worry, Alan. You don't have to know Shakespeare to sweep floors. Alan smirked back. You remind me of yogurt. Now Tom frowned. Yogurt, I give. Too much culture, Alan said triumphantly. Tom chuckled. Been holding that joke for the right moment, haven't you? Alan beamed. Both boys turned back toward the board. They're doing well, Tom admitted. The Russians are closing in on Berlin from the east. I need pressure on the Reds, man. You have to finish off India and stab them in the back. Next turn, Alan assured his ally. In Europe, I moved my 9 planes to the coast to threaten his armada. Unless he moves those ships out to sea, they're going to Davy Jones' locker, Tom said. He'll move them. They don't stand a chance against your planes, Alan said. Tom asked, what about India? Alan shook his head. Standard stuff. He's held out in India for a long time, but I'm about to crush it with a tsunami. I have 2-1 advantage over Doug's English forces. My Japanese should be knocking on Stalingrad in 2 turns. That'll turn them around with a little luck. Freak, are you trying to jinx us? The last thing we need is for that old bat to show up, Tom raged. Alan put his head up in surrender. Sorry, dude, I can't believe I said that. Tom said, I know what you mean, though. Plan or no plan, things have been falling their way all night long. The battle in the North Sea on turn 1 that came down to my bomber versus his battleship, he won. Your assault in Egypt would have destroyed his last piece on the continent. Instead, it destroyed your last piece. The dice seem to be, I don't, something's rotten. Something's not right. Something's rotten in the state of Denmark. Alan asked, you think he's going to land in Denmark? Tom apologized. No, Shakespeare again. Alan shook his head. Dude, my mom says there's someone out there for everybody. For you? Thanks a lot, Tom grinned. 1:13 a.m. The boys were all strangely silent except Doug. He jammered, no way. Can you believe it? What a turn. Wait till I tell my dad about it. No one said anything. He looked at the 3 in succession. Whose turn is it now? No one answered for a long, awkward moment. Finally, Alan said, it's nobody's turn. We're done. Glorified risk. I think we ought to. Tom blurted out, vote to ban the game? That's a bit serious, isn't it? Alan gestured to the North Atlantic. Lady Luck sure showed up tonight. And she showed us what kind of game this is, didn't she? Zach spoke silently. Take it easy, Alan. You're right. It's just drastic. Alan shot back. Our Constitution said if there is clear evidence that dice rolls are a greater factor than skill, the game should be put to a vote. Tom quoted, it's clear and consistent evidence. We played at least 25 times. No game's perfect. You're not kidding, Alan argued. Chill out, Alan. It's only a game. Doug tried to reason with him. Alan yelled, you do not understand, Doug. Alan hit the table with a fist. Hundreds of little men danced, and a plane hopped off an aircraft carrier in Hawaii. There was silence. Wind picked up outside, and a branch tapped the roof. He continued, they do. I say we vote. It's a risk all over again. Tom countered, it's a fluke. Good strategy usually wins. Alan fought back. It's a rotten game of chance and fate. What's the skill? Where's the skill in that? Everyone was silent for a time. Zach admitted, that stunk. I didn't intend to shoot down all your Air Force. That was not right. I knew you wouldn't be able to resist attacking my ships, but I figured every plane I took down would be one less to defend Berlin. We were wondering what your guys were up to, Alan said bitterly. Dang. Luck shouldn't trump good tactics. I guess we're going to have to go back with low luck, Tom concluded. Yeah, agreed Zach. Alan looked up and nodded sullenly. Silence reigned again. Doug cleared his throat. But hasn't Lady Luck beat good generals lots of times? Rommel's a great general. Wasn't he in Germany for a family birthday? It was lucky for us that he was. There was an awkward pause while Zach finally broke the silence. Don't confuse us with facts, Doug. Tom said hesitantly, sure, probably would have been a lot more American casualties if he was on location. So skill means nothing in war? Zach said, listen to him for a second. No one believes you just go to battle unprepared because it's all about luck. And no one believes the best trained, best equipped troops win 100% of the time. So what have we been doing for the last 2 years? Wasting our time, Alan asked. Tom said, we're a lot better strategists now than we were. A lot better strategists than we would have been if I hadn't given away my risk game. Luck makes you crazy sometimes, either way. A bad plan is better than no plan, Alan said. That quote will outlast us all, I swear, Tom tried to sound solemn as he pointed to all of them. Finally, some faint laughter. Doug said, my dad taught me something to do when the dice goes against you. He looked around to see if they would listen. You say things like, those were my crack troops, or snowstorm, or veterans, rookies, whatever. You kind of imagine stuff that goes along with the way the dice turn out. Makes a story out of it, Doug explained. That sounds kind of cool, Alan said hesitantly, looking from Tom to Zach and back again. So we should throw up our arms around Lady Luck and forget about the club? I still think the cleverest man should win, shouldn't they? Tom said. The race is not always to the swiftest, nor the battle to the strong, Doug quoted. Who said that? Zach asked. Solomon, king of Israel. It's in the Bible, Doug answered. Oh, yeah, you said your dad's a missionary, right? Alan said. Yeah. There was another long, awkward pause. Are we really done? Doug asked. Yeah, of course, the voices said. They started putting away the plastic man. Well, I guess you were right, Zach. We should have played D&D, Tom said. Hey, look at what we did with our 15 minutes on stage. Kind of messed everything up, didn't we? Zach asked. It wasn't Tom's fault. He was doing a great imitation of the Third Reich and folding to Stalin, Alan said. Oh, the rats flee the ship after all. Nice, Tom said. Just kidding, man, Alan said, slapping his friend's shoulder. Happy again. The club. I'm going to go with that. So that's sort of the first chapter. I've actually revised it quite a bit because my editor said it was really wonky and a little bit too much into the weeds, but I figured you guys would appreciate that kind of thing. So, yeah, so that's Kraken 36 putting out there a chapter of his book. And thanks for listening, guys. Hope you enjoyed.